fellows, and welcome to Pen Night Radio, where we slay our personal demons and arm ourselves to write our best content. I am your host, PK, unofficially knighted by a fictional character, which means you do not have to call me sir. For our purposes, Alec or PK will do just fine. Let's dive into why we're here. Let's take our pens and slay the demons that are dragging us down today. Then we write. And we're live. You've all heard my spiel before. I am a fiction author, originally published in 2017 by Seven Horns Publishing. I left Seven Horns Publishing in 2019 to pursue a career as an independently published fiction author. And I haven't been very upfront about this, but I am currently preparing a couple projects, standalone projects, shorter books that I think are very dense and meaningful to a lot of the things that are going on in society today. Whoopsie. And I'm preparing those books for traditional publishing. Querying is what we call that process, actually. So I have a couple of things going on for me. And the bottom line is that I just write. I wrote 500,000 words last year for the 365-day challenge. I am the author of The Calipar with some help from my wife, Carrie. Which is a book all about Richard Renovon, who is trying to defend the peaceful town of Ark from the deadly assault of mankind's predator, using a weapon known as the Artifact Blade, which can unleash a demonic spirit's powers against them. The hero's journey is very, very compelling to me, and that's what the Calipar is all about, and that's what Pen Night Radio is all about. In both the Calipar and here on the podcast, you can slay your inner demons. You can read content and listen to content that will help you to slay the demons that are holding you back from doing your best work. Now, again, you know the spiel. If you're still here in season 2, episode 10, that means that you know me and you know what we're all about here. And you know that we're all about you. We're trying to encourage you. And we're trying to budget in the time to create the books that we think will be encouraging and entertaining, and that we think can really kind of challenge some of the usual tropes that you see in the traditionally published world and in the world of media, where sometimes it can kind of feel like they're just shelling out the same things over and over again. You know, the never-ending era of remakes and all that. But you know what independently published authors really struggle to get? Reviews. This episode's all about reviews. Reviews matter. I really want to delve a little bit more into why reviews matter and why Andrew's book club that he just started recently, the One True Promotion book club, is such a massive thing, such a thing of such massive importance. I mean, I've certainly never seen anything like it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to read to you a couple of facts from Publishers Weekly. This was published last year, if you don't mind my saying, going into this a little bit. But there's been a decline in reading in our generation. So much so that sometimes when you tell people you wrote a book, they don't even really take you all that seriously. Because as far as a lot of people are concerned, people just aren't really reading anymore. Oh, sure, kids are still reading, and that's great. But even amongst children, I'm an 8th grade teacher, even amongst children, interest in reading seems way, way down, even for what was normal back in the 90s and early 2000s. But hey, the facts don't lie. The decline in reading in 2017 and 2022 was nearly the same for men and women, and as in previous years, more women than men. And as in previous years, more women than men read books last year, 56% versus 40%. The report also found that fewer older readers reported reading a book in the 2021 to 2022 period than was the case 5 years earlier. The biggest decline came among 55 to 64-year-olds, where the percentage of those who had read a book fell from 53% in 2017 to 43%. It fell 10%. The percentage of younger readers, those ages 18 to 34, that's me. If you're following me, that's likely you as well. Many of our followers fall into that category, who read at least one book for pleasure in the 12-month period, held even. So what that tells me is that most of us only read one book a year, if that. And I've tried to sell copies of my book to people who seemed really, really fascinated by the concept. They told me that. They said, this is very fascinating and very interesting. But you see, I don't read. When I read, I fall asleep. And they just put the book back on the table and carry on their merry way. Like, one thing I was really not prepared for as an author was how hard it would be to sell a book to someone. But here we are. And that goes for ebooks as well. Sometimes I think the ebook would be like, the item that sweetens the pot a little bit. It's like, well, if you don't want to lug around a physical book, you could always just download this ebook. It's only $3, but people are even hesitant to do that. So I feel like one of the biggest challenges plaguing indie authors is first of all, how to get books sold, how to get reviews. Let me start over. How to get books sold and compete with the very popular established authors who shell out more books and continue to do massively, massively well. How does the average, ordinary American who happens to be very creative, have depths of interesting worlds in their minds and just a lot of fascinating stuff to share with you, who actually care about the quality of their work and minimize to outright eradicate errors in the manuscripts? That's what we do. I can't say that my books are perfect, but I do think that errors are minimal, more and more with every book that I publish. I mean, I have great people with me that have been, cracking that whip at my back for as long as I've been doing this. And we hold our work to a very high standard, an incredibly high standard. Believe me, I've met authors who don't. And I wish I wish them well, because I happen to know a lot of readers can get very distracted by that. Folks, it's hard to compete. It is hard to compete. And it's a daily struggle for an indie author to ask themselves, how can I compete? And the answer is reviews. Now, to throw more numbers at you, and this isn't going to be an episode where I just beg for reviews the whole time. I really want to talk about, what authors need in terms of reviews, what a review is, and how writing a review can be fun. Because remember, this is you focused. So if you're a person out there who reads a lot but doesn't write reviews, maybe you get nervous at the thought of doing so, this is the episode for you. We're going to talk about it. Now, what am I trying to say here? Take J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter is one of my favorite things in the world to this day. Despite any serious controversies surrounding the author, the content and the themes and just the world building of Harry Potter continues to be very near and dear to my heart. And the books continue to do well. I look at the review section and they average about, say, 5,000 ratings. Now let's go over to George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin, as we all know that name. Even if we vehemently despise the books, we know the name George R.R. Martin. I was looking at A Clash of Kings earlier tonight, and that book averages something like 50,000 reviews. I mean, these numbers are high. These numbers are just are ridiculous. Now, what those numbers indicate on the surface, I think, is just the amount of people worldwide that are buying and reading this book. Obviously, there's authors who have gotten to where all the people are, and there's authors who are still struggling to get there. And those numbers that I mentioned are easily indicative of that. But there's a deeper meaning behind those numbers as well. And that is that when you're an indie author struggling to get 1 review, 2 reviews, 10 reviews, getting to 100 reviews would absolutely make your day, versus an established author who is averaging between 20,000 and 50,000 ratings. That is the disparity in virtual visibility. Amazon, that's where I read both of those statistics. Amazon is a marketer. Amazon is a marketer who, like any other business, is going to push their best-selling products. And most of their best-selling books are averaging, 20K ratings. So I would have to get 20,000 ratings on a book in order to compete with George R.R. Martin, not for fame and renown, but for visibility on Amazon. So, like I said, indie authors have these, these are people that are huge fans of genre. They're huge fans of science fiction. They play Dungeons and Dragons. They write fantasy. They've read every romance novel or rom-com known to man, and they are great at writing romance themselves. They're all people who are very good in the genre that they love, but they also want to make changes to the genre. They want to take the genre to places they wish they saw when they turned on the TV, but typically don't. So you've got authors out here that are creating worlds that haven't been thought of yet, and that put interesting twists on stories that might make you go, oh, wow, I never really thought of it like that. Or I never really imagined that this sort of creature could have this sort of meaning, or that these sorts of plot elements could all build up to this sort of twist. Like, you see that in the indie community, but what you don't see is the indie authors and their books. Because if somebody is averaging 20K reviews and we're averaging, 1 to 100 reviews, you're just not going to see us unless our ads are very, very clever in how we target keywords and just kind of guess what you're going to type into the search engine. Unless we can get that ad to pop up on your browser, you're just not going to see us. So the way that we combat this is that we write reviews. We write reviews. We ask people to write reviews. We ask for those reviews to just keep piling up so that we get pushed further and further up the list, so that little by little, like an honest business person, we just get into a space where more and more people are exposed to us, able to engage with us, and can spread the word about us. And it all begins with reviews. And so I'm a reader. I like a lot of authors. I know a lot of authors. I review all of their books, right? I sit down, I know about 10 authors, I write 10 reviews. That's one way that I could help out. But what about people who don't know authors? What about people who shop on Amazon every day and they're not sure what they should review? Okay, that's great, Alec, but how can me writing a random review, make a dent in your career? Well, Andrew Bast has started a book club. He's starting a movement, really. This is something that I thought to do years ago, but because I'm such a slow reader, I never really got around to it. And God bless Andrew that he just has that initiative, that drive, and that willingness to just get up and do something that is now calling me to task and getting me to participate. We are basically reading all of the books that that have been piling up over the years, and also the books that we see trending amongst our friends. And whatever we read, whether it's traditionally published, hybrid published, or indie published, we're just posting reviews. We're writing reviews, and we're posting them on social media, and we're letting people know where they can find the author and tag the author. We're establishing a network of communication between us and the authors we know and the authors we don't know. We are holding ourselves to review everything that we read. If we touch it, we are going to review it. It could be a 1-star review. It could be a 5-star review. So, I mean, that's what the movement is. That's what the book club is. It's happening now. It began at the beginning of December. And if you would like to participate in that, you could be any age. You could be reading anything from fiction to a cookbook. You could be reading manga or a graphic novel. Doesn't matter who you are or what you want to say. That's entirely up to you as an individual. But we are encouraging you to leave that review. Just if you're reading something right now and you're enjoying it, if you're listening to this podcast right now and enjoying it, write a review. Just get in the habit of writing a review. The more people we can get reviewing, the more you'll see this in the next 6 months. You'll start to see all of us together kind of pushing unknown, obscure books further and further into the limelight by our combined effort of just not being afraid to talk to people about them, not being afraid to shine a light on it. So that is something I strongly encourage you to do, because it does get results. Now, what constitutes a review? Well, Andrew and I are going to talk about this a little later in the episode, but A review could be anything. I I once read a review that said, the author stinks, the story doesn't make sense, the characters are dull, not for me. That was the review. And if that's how you like to review, more power to you. I've read reviews that are extremely detailed. This was outside of my usual comfort zone. This is not something I would normally read, but it is, well, actually, I can't quite recall from memory. So let me find a good one. Let me find one of the best reviews that I've ever read. And this is a review of my own book, Barker's Rules. If you don't know what Barker's Rules is, it is a horror story about poor Melanie Greer being held by the superhuman serial killer Justin Barker. If you like psychological thrillers with a teeny bit of violence, but mostly a focus on identity and facing evil and trying to get your life back, struggling to survive in a cruel, dismal world, then this is the book for you. Now, I should tell you before I get into these reviews that the book is in paperback and Kindle. You'll notice there's a $50 hardcover on the front page. Listen, Amazon is ignoring me. So I'm just going to tell you very boldly, Amazon has no right to be publishing that hardcover. If you see my book and you see, wow, this guy published a $50 hardcover, there is no way I'm touching that. Folks, that's not the book. The book is further down the page. It's the paperback. It's only $12.99. Amazon, I have sent them 3 requests to take this book down because this is the copy that existed under a different publisher. And we met and we agreed that we were canceling that ISBN. So Amazon shouldn't be selling that, but they are, and they're refusing to get rid of it. So that's a whole other scandal to discuss another day. But please don't be discouraged when you see that there's a $50 hardcover, because that's not the book I'm trying to get you to buy. I'm trying to get you to buy the $12 paperback that was independently published in June 2020 when we formed One True Promotion. So what are people saying about this book? Well, this book is a fantastic and suspenseful psychological thriller that isn't afraid to broach dark subject matters or delve deeply into dark fears and nightmares. The story starts off with a bang and continues on with a tense build into an adrenaline-laced story of a young girl caught up in the nightmarish world of a psychotic killer and organized crime. This story stands in stark contrast to a world with increasingly lazy world building and character development, as the author takes time to develop depth and reality in his characters, all while subtly weaving a world of complex characters and fearsome killers. Though I will provide a warning that this book can deal with brutal subject matter, the author employs incredible care and sensitivity to how it is portrayed. This book and its characters definitely stuck with me, and I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys psychological thrillers and suspense. That review was posted by my dear friend Daniel, and I am one of the toughest critics I know, and I've always appreciated it. But I wanted to share that with you because that's how, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I want to write a review, but I don't know how long they want me to go on and on. No, you can literally say whatever you want in your review. You could say that it sucked. You could say that it held your attention, but maybe you'd only read it once. Or you could write, an entire passage about what you thought were the pros and the cons, the strengths and the weaknesses. That constitutes a review. Leaving a star rating without writing anything down constitutes a review. So if you just want to click a star rating and move on with your day, you could do that. But I want to encourage you, sometimes when we read reviews, we find people that are just not interested in having a conversation. They just want to say, this book was interesting, but I was expecting something else. So, I put it down. I'm giving it 1 star. Don't read it. And that's kind of a typical review that an author will see. If the book somehow failed to meet that person's specific expectations that perhaps weren't really justified if they paid a little bit more attention to the back flap of the book, but that's a whole other discussion too. The point I'm trying to make is, if you want to articulate something in a review and you're having a little imposter syndrome about it, odds are you don't know how much your voice matters. You don't realize how much an author is waiting to hear from you, because we can get a whole lot of ignorance, radio silence, or I really loved the book, definitely recommend. And that's it. No details, nothing for us to draw from and say, okay, so these aspects of the book really resonated with this reader. I want to just encourage you. You have a voice and your voice matters. So if you're thinking about writing a review, but you have a little anxiety about doing so, don't be afraid. Just be a hero, slay your inner demons that are stopping you from writing that review. And please do, give an indie author a chance. And the last thing I want to talk about is how can a review be fun? Folks, book clubs used to be so cool. One of the ways that reading was kept interesting to kids and adults throughout all the years that reading was not in the sharp decline it's in now is book clubs, reading clubs. I mean, monthly meetings to discuss a book. I mean, your reviews are a version of that. Your reviews are your chance to not only post your review to the retailer, but to copy it and post it and discuss it with whoever is in your comment section. You could establish a community just around that one book. If you happen to find people who really enjoy it, let's say you were reviewing Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite books. You could establish a whole little community just by posting a book review and asking people what their thoughts on it were. So I really want to encourage you that this is a great pastime you might be missing out on. And, there's a whole world of literature and art out there that'll be very interesting to you. But it begins with reviews because it begins with drawing more people to that scene by allowing those books to be shown in the algorithm. So I implore you, reviews matter. And there's a book club specifically for reviews going on right here at One True Promotion with some very interesting and passionate people. And if you would like to be a part of it, contact us. We'll let you know how you can get started. So, well, I'd love to thank my team at One True Promotion. Thank you, Andrew, our Chief Operating Officer at One True Promotion, who is a fabulous, fabulous writer and marketer and also literary agent. Thank you to Brielle, who is our head of editing and design, who is also incredibly fabulous in all that she is doing and is working on some absolutely fabulous content that I can't wait to see published. Thank you to Cameron, who is the cover designer for Children of Arc and one of our artists on hold. We always appreciate you, Cameron, and everything you do. Folks, Pen Night Radio is dedicated to bringing you content that is both entertaining and educational. We share personal and business experience to help you figure out how to tackle the most puzzling issues in your craft, slay the demons that are holding you down, and turn that blank page into a full page. So thank you for listening to this message. And if you like the podcast, drop me a comment. Let me know what you want to hear discussed in a future episode. Let me know what your thoughts were on the topic. We can engage with you if you engage with us. So please don't be afraid, again, to just type your thoughts into the comment section. All right, we will be back to hear Andrew's thoughts in our next section, Drop a Line.
She was my queen, a castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams, plucking sunlight from the sky.